Come on, Muggsy! Yeah! Yeah! Look what me first mate got me! Aha! Ha ha! We are going to celebrate! Yeah! We pillage and plunder, we're really bad eggs. Drink up, me hearty, yo-ho! What do you mean you'd rather be playing Pirates Cove? Just give Dreadfleet a chance. I think you're going to like it. You wouldn't be suggesting anything, would ye, Muggsy? Oh, that's me first mate. Oh, yeah. Into the box, into the box, into the box, into the box. Yes! Okay, so I'm not going to bother doing a true unboxing video because I'm sure you've seen it done a dozen times by now, and since I got my box late, I'm sure you've unboxed your own box. So I'm just going to skip ahead to what's important. Okay, so you have all your sprues. The thing we're going to be talking about in this session is removing the pieces from the sprues. So it's really simple. You don't have to worry too much about it, but one thing I will say you have to be careful of is keeping in mind all of these ships. Can't even see this video here. All of these ships have a letter identifier, so all of their bits should be marked. When you're disassembling, either do one ship at a time or go ahead and separate them into piles so that, for example, the Black Kraken is E, so all of the components of the Black Kraken, which is only 3 components here, are all marked with an E on the sprue. And here is marked H. This will be for the scabrous. H, H, H. So just keep that in mind when you're removing. Don't just make a whole pile of bits because then you might get a little bit lost. You can also refer to the box. They have some nice pictures here to help you out. And get out your trusty wedge head and your X-Acto if you're into X-Actoing, and of course your file. I'm very happy to say that I don't see a whole lot of work here that's going to require filing other than the points of attachment. So you shouldn't have to really employ these very much. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, when you're going to clip from the sprues, I like to take the flat point of the wedge head and get as close as possible to where I'm clipping. Let's start over here with the scabrous. Move that so you can see a little bit better perhaps. As long as this isn't too close, we should be safe. Alright, now you're going to see on the ships little nubs, and this is so that you can fit to the bases and to both sections of the ship. So here you have the connecting joints. Make sure you don't clip any of those, and you should be able to dry fit your ship pretty well. Now you want to stay as close to that nub as you can without cutting the nub. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can optionally clip right here. So you're actually leaving a section of the sprue on the ship. Example, this lantern is in a very bad spot for the clippers, so I'm going to go ahead and cut over here. Those are just the walnuts falling. Alright, and then, oh, there's one by the jaw. I think I can get in close here. Okay. So here you have the first half of your ship. But you have an awful lot of stuff that you need to clean off. So that's where your X-Acto knife comes in. Alright, hopefully this will show up alright. And here you see the remainder of the plastic sprue. If you're using an X-Acto blade, you can go ahead, just give that a slice and try not to cut yourself. I personally am not very good with the X-Acto blade, at least not while I'm filming, especially. Oof. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over my trusty file and basically just file enough to get that point down. Now normally you'd be working on a table, which would make this all the world easier. But you get what I mean. Until you get a flat point. Now I know that's not a flat point, but I'll work on it a little bit later. In these areas where you have a larger amount of the sprue, sometimes you can go ahead and grab it. See? Came right off. Don't even really need to file that, but I always give that just a little bit of a file. Make it smooth. Smooth for a good connection. Put this piece in the center. Sometimes you can work some of the sprues off just like that. Now, I know the filing is slower, but often you get a smoother finish and a better gluing connection by filing than with using the X-Acto blade. So with the X-Acto blade, you kind of want to focus on getting the larger chunks of plastic off, and then afterwards file it smooth. This piece will be a little bit more problematic. There you go. Probably would have been better for me to use an X-Acto blade and a table, but I took a risk. You don't have to be too much of a perfectionist, but just so that most of that plastic is smooth. Another thing to note when you're cutting pieces off of the sprue, you need to watch out for extremely thin areas. So for example, this dragon's tail, that would be an easy point of breakage if you wanted to clip like right by the tail, like that. I wouldn't suggest that at all. I would just go here to the base of the sprue and then just work that little extra piece of plastic off later. An ounce of prevention, they say. So that way you don't risk breaking some of the thin points on these models. I'm thinking some of the sails and mast areas with these little flags. These would be key areas to pay extra attention to your clipping from the sprues. Well, basically, all pretty easy. It's not difficult. Don't stress out too much. And if you do end up, say, I broke the tail, it is fixable with glue. It's just, try to prevent that from happening, and yeah. Well, once you have your pieces of your ship compiled, you can go ahead and dry fit them. I usually do a very loose dry fitting, but here. So now they're roughly playable. If you want to go ahead and get a game in on the table, you can do so. Just keep in mind, try not to play with oily fingers. Normally you don't have to wash plastics. You always have to wash resins to get the mold release agent off, but you normally never have to do that with plastics, at least not the GW plastics. However, if you're going to be playing with these a lot before you're able to prime them, you're going to want to keep your fingers clean, because if they're too oily, then you will have to wash your models, because the oil will prevent the primer from sticking, and it would just be a bad thing when you actually go to paint them. So just, don't be chowing down on some pizza and chips while moving your plastic ships around pre-primer, and you'll be fine. Look at this. Even though I've been doing this for years, even I still make some mistakes. This is going to require gluing. But it's cute, isn't it? Cute little ship. Actually, this is probably as big as a Titanic or something in real life. But totally dwarfed by these monster warships. That's a nice piece of terrain. Should probably always cut away from you instead of towards you. And try not to inhale the plastic you do file, just as a general rule. Plastic dust. Don't breathe this. Now, obviously, this sprue are all the ship bases. Now, you can either leave them on the sprue, or you can remove them from the sprue and stick your ships on them. See, scabbers, where do you go? You would go up here. So if you want to get a game in before painting them, you could easily dry fit them onto their bases. However, depending on how you'd like to paint these, you might want to leave them on the sprue. Now, I'm probably going to remove them because that's just me. However, if you're a dry brusher, you might want to leave them on the sprue, because it would be a lot easier to paint them all at one time that way. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about yet in terms of dry brushing, we'll be going over that later when we get to the actual painting. But don't worry. If you remove them from the sprues, it's just fine. Just don't glue anything yet. Just focus on getting your dry fittings and everything smoothed out, filed, cut, what have you. And make sure that the bases are kept separate from the ships for now. Oh, look, I took the base off anyway. Actually, I'm just doing it to just to see what this will look like dry fitted. Now, I didn't do all of the clean filing work I should be doing, so it's not sitting flush. But this will make it more easily playable pre-painting. But I have to say, do not glue the ship down yet, because you are definitely going to want to paint these bases before sticking the ship on, because it'll just save so much time and less headaches painting them separately. Otherwise, if you have your ship glued down onto the water base, you're going to be painting around your ship, and you're just bound to get some blue paint on your ship, which might not be such a bad problem if you haven't painted your ship yet, but just don't do it. Just don't do it. Just make sure your ship is kept separate. Just dry fit everything. Don't glue anything yet. And then you'll be safe. Some ships are definitely going to need to be painted in parts. The spectral ship here, a ghost ship, what have you. This is definitely going to be one you're going to have to paint separately. And it's going to be a tricky removal from the sprue even. There's a lot of really fine points of contact here. A really beautiful design. But a lot of these ships are going to require painting and then assembly. I'm thinking even the Kraken may need painting prior to assembly as well. But really stunning models, and don't let that upset you that you'd have to paint before assembly. I know it's not something that most beginners tackle, but it's doable. And I'm just cutting out the extra scabrous piece so I can get a more appropriate dry fit. Just take your time. We're not in a race to get these puppies done. Time and patience yields better results. Always. Be careful, careful, careful. Cutting out these flags and such. Err on the side of cutting with leaving more sprue on than not. Some of these little areas can be a little tricky. Sometimes I go up here and even cut off some of the alternate sprue. It's a little hard to do on camera, I admit it. I'm curious to see what the paint wear and tear on the moving joints of this ruler are going to be. I think we're going to reinforce that once it's done painting with a gloss finish, just to help with smoother mobility. I'm so glad this came with 2 of these ship's wheels. I was trying to debate whether I was going to paint my background red or black. Now I get to do both. Woo! My absolute favorite piece of terrain is this ginormous sea turtle. I'm going to cut you out now. Just awesome. Nice. Gotta hand it to GW. I mean, they've got some really great artists working over there. I mean, even the water, just so finely detailed. Once you've gone and removed all of your ships, go ahead and dry fit them all together. Get your terrain out. Make sure you do the cleanup work. And the next step will be priming and getting ready for paint. And the first piece of terrain I think we'll be doing will be this piece. I don't know, I'll look over the other pieces too, but I think it'll be best to start with the terrain and work your way up to the ships, so that way you get used to your brushes, the painting process, you know, etc., etc. Even after all these years painting, I always start with something small with a project and then work my way up. So like with Space Hulk, I did the bases first. Even though I wanted to jump right into the Tyranids, I just stuck with the bases and then moved to Nids. Makes things a little bit easier, makes you more excited, anticipating the work that you're going to be doing, and more rewarding. So basically, that's it. Your homework is to get cracking. Get your pieces off the sprues and start dry assembling. And of course, have fun, me hearties!